Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 Report, episode 338. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the JP8 Report. As I get everything situated here and I'm going, refresh, and I should be on screen. There I am. All right. Welcome to the JP8 Report. It is the 25th of February at noon. All right. So, like I said, welcome to the JP8 Report. If you're watching the JP8 Report and you have never clicked that follow button, do me a favor and click that. And also give us a like, that thumbs up button, and give us a chat. And the chat's open. Rob, he's in and out. He's watching another podcast and doing mine at the same time. We got Texas flags in there. He actually put a dancing banana. That belongs with Chad Prather. But, hey, I'll take it too. I mean, because I like Chad. And then we also have the Rumble wallet. If you feel like you want to give me a tip, put it in the Rumble wallet, and they'll take care of the rest of the way. But thank y'all very much for tuning in today. A lot of us had a late night last night because of the State of the Union address, and I already did the morning brief this morning from 6:30 to 7. And thank y'all for tuning in. Let's get ready to get this over with. We have America 250 to deal with first. And this is day 3 of the siege of the Alamo. So 10 more days. Y'all should have heard it yesterday. I actually read the victory or death letter from Lieutenant Colonel William Barrett Travis. That's pretty good. I might have to do it again later on. Let's see. I have a letter here from George Washington to Major General Philip Schuyler. Well, General George Washington to Major General Philip Schuyler. I don't know why they didn't put his rank when they addressed this other guy as a Major General. It says, Dear Sir, notwithstanding I have adopted every measure which my judgment directed for procuring arms in these governments for the army under my command, as well as applications to the several assemblies and conventions, as by sending officers to several towns to purchase, I am under the disagreeable and melancholy necessity of informing you that there is at this important crisis a very great deficiency, and that there is now a considerable number of men in the encampments without anything in their hands, nor do I know that there is any prospect or probability of providing them. Can you, my dear sir, assist me with any from your parts? If you procure or purchase any in the towns fit for use, I beg that you will do it and have them forwarded with all possible expedition to me. I will pay for them immediately on delivery, and the charges of bringing them. I am told that Major Duncan of Schenectady has about 300 King's arms. These or such of them are as good and serviceable as will be of great use, and I doubt not that they may be readily procured. If they can, I request that they may be and be forwarded with any others that you may get with the price. I would not be thus pressing in this important or not, and not for the situation which I'm truly alarming and distressing, to be within musket shot of a formidable army, well provided of ever necessary without having a means on my part of maintaining even a defensive war, relying that everything in your power will be done to serve me. I shall only add that I am, dear sir, with great regard, your uh, affectionate, honorable servant, George Washington. So it looks like we are about to attack Boston, but we don't have the means to attack Boston. So something's going to come about in the next week or so in terms of uh, procuring weapons for the Continental Army to be able to, like they said, even just to defend themselves or to attack. Because you know that we were reading last week about a 4,000 man force they want to advance into Boston, but if you don't have the arms to do it, you don't have the arms to do it. All right. So at least George Washington is attempting to procure weapons. That was pretty good. If you like that, put an American flag in the chat. All right. So we got that done. We have the Dalmatians to read about. So Dalmatian Texas burgers, they're homemade smash burgers and hot dogs right here in Copper's Cove. All their ingredients are homemade and fresh, including their buns. They're open for lunch Monday through Saturday, 11 to 2. And for dinner, they're open from Tuesday to Saturday, 5:30 to 7, unless they sell out first. And they're located on the west side of Copper's Cove on 190 behind Bush's Chicken, right? And then here is their menu. And the armadillo is the best burger they got. To me, it is, okay? My wife doesn't like jalapenos, but that's her. All right, so let me go back to here. I don't think there's anything I have. I can put on that. I forgot to put some pictures on here this morning. I got ran out of time. That's all right. So we talked about the only thing about Nancy Guthrie, because I didn't put it on the show notes about Nancy Guthrie, but they were saying this morning that a neighbor of theirs that was lived in the vicinity said about 2 weeks prior to her disappearing, they saw a stranger walking down the street with a ball cap like this, pulled down tight on his head, and he looked like someone that's never been there before and didn't need to be in the area of those homes because uh, the Catalina foothills, I think that's what they call it, uh, is like a semi-exclusive area. Okay, but that's the only thing came up over the last couple of days besides the $1 million reward offer and the $500,000 to the Centers for Exploited People. Okay, exploited children. All right, so now we have the State of the Union. Anyone willing to tell us in the chat if y'all watched the State of the Union last night? As I get started here. All right, so with the State of the Union, I was right. If you were watching yesterday, and my guess for the length of the State of the Union, I did say 1 hour and 47 minutes. Before I get into that, a shoe dropped. Almost two shoes dropped in the Epstein files the day. Okay, so one of them is Bill Gates admitted he had an affair with two Russian women as part of the Epstein thing, and the other is Lawrence Summers, and this just came out about 15 minutes ago. Lawrence Summers fully resigned from Harvard University due to his exposure in the Epstein files. So, two people, and I know more is going to go down. Get these Democrats done. Okay, they wanted it; they can pay the price for it. Okay, so back to the State of the Union, talk about our great president. I was right yesterday when I said It would last 1 hour and 47 minutes. I said that. You can go review the tape and watch yesterday morning's morning brief. Um, and it was 1 hour and 47 minutes. I told my wife I should have went on one of those betting sites and I'd see if there was a length bet for a length of the site on there, and I would have won. Man, I cannot believe I was right on the money. But it was 1 hour and 47 minutes. It's a record by like 20 minutes over Bill Clinton, which he'll probably be the next shoe to drop too. You see the Clinton Foundation dismiss him off of the board of directors, and Hillary Clinton too. And they can do that because Jeffrey Epstein can't kill himself anymore because he's already dead. So, Hillary Clinton can't do nothing about it. If you know, you know. All right. But okay, so the State of the Union. It lasts 1 hour and 47 minutes. And just to go over a couple of things that I talked about this morning about the history of the State of the Union, it is in Article 2, Section 3, requiring the president to deliver from time to time the State of the Union. You can do it in person or you can deliver a letter. All right. It was in person all through the presidency of George Washington and John Adams. And then when Thomas Jefferson took office, he stopped that tradition and it continued to be delivered only in person until 1913 with Woodrow Wilson. And then from that time on, it was in person, except for, I believe, 1919 and 1920 when Woodrow Wilson had his stroke. It was delivered by letter. And then Calvin Coolidge, he discontinued the practice. And then so did Herbert Hoover. And then so did Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1944, 1945. We all know that he was sick and he did die in 1945. So in that time period, he was out of pocket, I guess. Harry Truman for doing one in person in 1946 and 1953 as he was leaving the presidency. Dwight Eisenhower didn't do it twice. And then in 1973, Richard Nixon didn't do it in person. And then the last person that didn't deliver a State of the Union in person was President Jimmy Carter in 1981, right before he left office. Okay. It might have been a sore butt syndrome because he just got whacked by President Reagan in the presidential election. But since 1982 with Ronald Reagan all the way to present day, it's always been in person delivering to the Congress. All right. I don't know when the first televised. I think the first televised one was with Harry Truman. I think I'm not. Don't hold me to that one, please. All right. So a couple of the highlights of the State of the Union from last night was we're at 12:13. We got plenty of time. At the very end of the speech, President Trump said a paragraph that it should be remembered in history of this State of the Union. The revolution that began in 1776 still continues because the flame of liberty burns in the heart of every American. Their future will be bigger and brighter, bolder and more glorious than ever before. Thank you. God bless you. We should remember that forever in relation to President Trump. All right. That was very good. That was a very good way to end that speech. I did tell you about this one. The speech ran for 1 hour and 47 minutes. 20 minutes longer than President Clinton's previous record in the year 2000. And that was the year before the election of George W. Bush. All right, so we got that one, right? Okay, so there were several military awards that were issued last night. All right, the first two were Medal of Honors, right? I don't want the first ones, but so President Trump used an emotional stretch of his address to spotlight American military heroism, recognizing Chief Warrant Officer 5. They just put Chief Warrant Officer, but Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric John, I think his middle name is John. We'll go Eric Slover, and veteran U.S. Navy Captain Royce Williams, a veteran of the Korean War. In describing Slover, Trump said there were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro in Venezuela. Really great heroes. It was very dangerous, Trump said, recounting how Slover piloted a Chinook helicopter into heavy enemy fire. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces, the president said, describing how Slover continued flying despite severe injuries. Trump told lawmakers that the success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to keep flying as blood poured down the aisle. Slover, still recovering, was present with his wife Amy when he was presented the nation's highest military award. Trump then presented a Medal of Honor to Royce Williams, Captain Williams, who is 100 years old, for his extraordinary long classified combat valor, like in the movie Top Gun. And I keep referring to it because that's what it was, because he himself, while his aircraft was shot 263 times in the Korean War, shot down 4 Soviet-piloted MiG-15 jet fighters over the Korean Peninsula during the Korean War in 38 minutes of combat and survived. He shot down 4 Russians in combat, and it was long classified because the American military didn't want the public to know that we were actively fighting Russians in Korea. All right, but he was dutifully awarded the Medal of Honor because that man absolutely deserved it. Both of them did. Slover, I believe Chief Slover is a member of the 160th SOR. I believe he is. I can't tell by the patch on his left shoulder, but he was with the special operations with the Chinook. So I'm sure that's going to come out eventually. That was something else. And then the next one is we got that one done. President Donald Trump on Wednesday awarded the Purple Heart to Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. Sarah Beckstrom died in Washington, D.C. in November, and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was severely critically wounded in Washington, D.C. when they were attacked by an Islamic radical terrorist from Afghanistan, who drove all the way from Washington State to Washington, D.C. to attempt to kill both of them. Trump used a portion of his State of the Union to acknowledge Wolf and the parents of 20-year-old Beckstrom, who did not survive her injuries. I'm going to ask the highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late great President George Washington himself. Trump said, it's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. As Trump spoke, Major General Seward, Adjutant General to the West Virginia Army National Guard, presented Beckstrom's medal to her parents and pinned a Purple Heart on Wolf in the viewing gallery. Your daughter was a true patriot, Trump told Beckstrom's parents, and she will be greatly missed. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey praised the award in a statement, describing the portion of Trump's remarks as a solemn, unforgettable moment, one that ensured their courage and sacrifice were honored not only by West Virginia, but also before the entire nation. Okay, and this one was about the same thing. And then, before then was July 3rd and July 4th here in Texas on the Guadalupe River by Kerrville, when we had this massive rain dump on top of all of us in central Texas, where we got inches of rain within one day, right? And all those Camp Mystic kids and people up and down the Guadalupe River were swept away to their deaths. Well, uncommon valor continues on. And President Trump awarded U.S. Coast Guard Petty Officer Third Class Scott Ruskin, who rescued 165 children during flash flooding in Texas last year, with the prestigious Legion of Merit. The Legion of Merit, I believe, is just above the Bronze Star in the scope of medals for the U.S. military. Hey, Rob, if you're listening right now, instead of listening to the other podcast, you should be listening to mine. Hey, how far up is the Legion of Merit in the scope of medals? Please let me know, okay? Or if anybody else knows that, all right? Ruskin was only 26 years old at the time and was on his first ever rescue mission when he heroically saved the children who were at risk of drowning in the floods that ravaged central Texas. Last year, when the floods tore through the girls' summer camp in central Texas, one of the worst things I've ever seen. This is coming from President Trump. Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. Very brave, very, very top of his class. Trump also honored World War II veteran George Buddy Taggart during the State of the Union. Buddy earned many honors, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, came home, started a family, and tonight he's in the gallery looking forward to his July 4th, 2026 100th birthday. Oh my goodness, man. So when he was born, the nation was only 150 years ago, and he was born 100 years after Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both died, because they died July 4th, 1826. Taggart flew to Washington, D.C. With his family from Vermont for the speech. Both Taggart and Ruskin were in the audience for Trump's recognition. Isn't that pretty cool? And we got that one right there. Okay, so I talked about the Medals of Honor, which was the most important in all of this. We talked about the Purple Hearts, the Legion of Merit, and the Bronze Star. And then at the very beginning of the State of the Union, the president had the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team that received the gold medal. They came in the upper balcony behind him, where the media all sits, and had them all come in and waved to everyone. And at that time, he announced that the goalie, and I didn't write his name down again. That the goalie was unanimously voted about all the rest of his compatriots, teammates, that he himself would receive the Congressional Medal of the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Trump. And he didn't know about that one. He was totally shocked. All right. So those are some of the highlights so far. Al Green, which is in here too. Al Green lasted 3 minutes inside the State of the Union, and he got kicked out. So on your bingo card, if you had Al Green less than 3, you would have won. Omar and Tlaib both got mad at President Trump, and they left early. Thank you very much. And the Sentinel group, Sentinel Action Group was our fund was putting out before the State of the Union that immediately after the State of the Union address, they were going to dump $650,000 on ad buy to help Americans ensure that they are registered to vote and eligible to vote before the November election. We already saw 2 of those. I already saw 2 of those ads already last night, and it's starring Senator Bill Hagerty from Tennessee, and it was really good, well placed, and all I have to say is we need more conservative groups to step forward and spend their money on let's get Republicans elected to office instead of slaughtering Republicans across the battlefield over and over and over again until the Democrats have a heads up on how they can win. We need to stop that. We need to stop the backfighting. No more, since March is almost here, no more et tu, Brute moments between Americans, between Republicans. And like Ronald Reagan said, the 11th Amendment is Republicans shall not speak ill against other Republicans. We have to remember that, all right? So I have an opinion piece right here from Liz Peek, and if you know Liz Peek, she's a very conservative person at Fox News. All right. So, and please don't forget to click that like button and the follow button, please, okay? And leave me some chat in the live chat, all right? So Liz Peek said, America expected one thing from Trump's State of the Union, it got another. She said, call me crazy, but I love President Trump's State of the Union speech. Yes, it was long, the longest in at least 60 years, but it was also entertaining, it was optimistic, positive, and hopeful about America's future. Right off the bat on Tuesday night, Trump introduced the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team, and though they didn't lead the chamber in singing the national anthem, My Secret Hope, that was open parentheses, close parentheses, they did show off their gold medals to thunderous applause and shouts, USA, USA, that set the celebratory and triumphant tone of the evening. Trump did not appear to be the president under siege, struggling with sagging approval ratings. Far from it. He was at his best. He was relaxed, at times funny, and appropriately incredulous at the smallness and absurdity of his Democrat opponents. My guess is that he gets a much-needed bounce from this performance, not only because of his likable delivery, but also because he reviewed the enormous attempts of accomplishments oh, wow. Okay. Before I go further, the rapper David is suspected of murder in the case of a dismembered teen in explosive new documents. That's on the New York Post, okay? So he may be going to jail. As important, he avoided picking a fight with the Supreme Court, which he could easily soured the mood. He described the Supreme Court's ruling declaring his tariffs as disappointing and unfortunate, but then moved on. That was very smart of him. Talking up the importance of tariffs in leveling the playing field for U.S. firms and in attracting trillions of dollars of investment into the United States. Case in point, Apple this morning was discovered they lied to the president and said they were moving their production out of China, and it was implied they were moving it to the United States, but instead they relocated iPhones from China to India for manufacturing because they were afraid that the cost of an iPhone would reach $3,500 inside the States. All right. More to come on that one later on, I guess. He will also pack the gallery with a crowd of sympathetic and admirable people whose lives and experiences not only served to demonstrate the policies he touted, but also inspired the audience. Who could fail to applaud the children who are surviving grievous injuries or the pilot wounded during the extraction of Venezuela's illegitimate president, Nicolas Maduro, who managed to carry out the mission and was then awarded the Medal of Honor, or the National Guardsman shot in the head who is recovering against all odds. And the stories are heartwarming, incorporate much of the exceptional about the United States, the bravery, sacrifice, and patriotism that characterize so many heroes. President Trump's most important mission was to remind people that President Joe Biden left behind a mess that he is working to fix it. Let me correct that one. That President Joe Biden left behind a massive mess. That's my input in that. And that he is working to fix it. President Trump's most important mission was to remind people that President Joe Biden left behind a mess, that he's working to fix it. Trump inherited from Biden an economy dependent on gigantic federal spending, an open border, unprotected from a rush of criminals who flooded in among millions who illegally entered, in prices that soared more than 20% in 4 short years. A massive influx of undocumented migrants poured into cities like New York, causing chaos, crime, and rising budget headaches as the public had to foot the bill for migrants receiving taxpayer-funded health care, education, and housing. Those problems are ongoing despite Trump's efforts to deport the criminals who are making our cities unsafe. In his speech, he called upon Congress to outlaw sanctuary cities. It won't happen, but it should. Trump ran on closing the border. Today, it is more secure than ever, as he reminded voters, if Democrats return to power, they will reverse his efforts. Do I need to say that statement again? As is customary, Trump cataloged his greatest hits. He celebrated the One Big Beautiful Bill, in which contained the biggest tax cuts in U.S. history, including reduced tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. He introduced a couple from Pennsylvania who are saving over $5,000 from their tax bill. Trump also touted his efforts to bring down prescription drug prices to make IVF more affordable, and sympathetically introduce a young woman trying to become a mom, and to establish price transparency in healthcare. About that, They were talking, it was like $5,000 for each treatment, and now she can get it for $400 or something like that. I think that's the way it was. He touted the Trump accounts for young children, which he said could get them a running start in life, and called out computer innovator Michael Dell and his wife Susan for contributing more than $6 billion to the program. He also talked up his plan to make tech companies operating data centers pay for the copious electricity those projects require. Electricity prices having soared across the country, thanks in part large by the described and reckless energy policies put in place by climate-focused Democrats. Trump is trying to fix that. Another plan to increase affordability is his recent executive order banning Wall Street financial firms from buying up homes. At the margin, this may help, as will lower mortgage rates. Such initiatives are meant to reduce the cost of living, which are likely to play a large role in midterm elections. The president and his team are also focusing the rooting out welfare fraud, which he said is rampant. Trump has said that eliminating theft of taxpayer dollars would eliminate the deficit. It won't, but it surely can help. Even Joe Biden's Government Accountability Office said the country was losing hundreds of billions of dollars every year to fraud and theft. But the Biden White House ignored the problem, but the Trump White House is addressing it. If you knew someone was stealing billions and billions and billions of dollars, why wouldn't you try to stop it to save the American taxpayers billions and billions and billions of dollars? All right, that was my editorial part of that. The theft of billions of dollars of welfare payments in Minnesota by primarily Somali criminals became an overnight political liability for Democrat Governor Walz and other state officials at best ignore the problem. Trump has designated Vice President J.D. Vance, or probably our next president, to lead the fraud investigation. You can be sure that the Democrat-run states okay, I'll stop right there. So this came from the New York Post just now. Flurry of official activity at Nancy Guthrie's home Wednesday. Man. Oh, man, I lost it. Okay. There's something happening in Arizona at Nancy Guthrie's home. It was a very good night for the president. It was a bad night for Democrats. Over 70 Democrats shamefully boycotted the speech, which only made their dour presence less impactful. President Trump more than once called out Democrats, in some cases, for opposing popular items like tax cuts and voter ID laws. The Save America Act needs to be passed. He also berated them for supporting unpopular measures like gender reassignment of minors without parental approval. As he introduced a family whose daughter had experienced that misfortune, he waved his hand at Democrats saying, "These people are crazy," and most would agree. President Trump got the message. He needs to make life more affordable. Now he has to follow through. After Tuesday night, the country knows he is working on it. And this is by Liz Peek. You know, he had a commanding audience between 30 and 40 million people probably watching this speech. And the lamestream media could not edit it out into a 15-second soundbite. So they got firsthand what the president was all about. All right. Thank you, Liz, for writing that. All right. Okay, hold on just a second. I want to see one thing. That was on the New York post. So I'm going to see what that is real quick, okay? Refresh. FBI searching. Whoa, is that breaking news? FBI searching home and office of Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent. Wow. Okay. So I'm going on the Savannah Guthrie thing. Let's see the live update. Okay, it says there's a flurry of official-looking activity outside the home of Nancy Guthrie today. Host Savannah Guthrie's mother, who's been missing since February 1st. 2 men in suits arrived at the missing woman's Tucson, Arizona house Wednesday morning. The sheriff posted outside the house, let them park. They were joined by what appeared to be a tradesman in a work truck who arrived separately, pictures show. After the tradesman helped the 2 men enter the Guthrie home, he and one of the officials drove off separately. The official who left returned with a woman in a suit, and the 2 went back in the house. About 15 minutes later, 3 black SUVs pulled onto the Guthrie property, and 6 people, 5 with suits, 1 wearing casual clothes, got out and entered the house. It is unclear what capacity they are there in. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. All right, so I'm going to be watching the news after we get done here. All right. President Trump takes direct State of the Union swipe at Democrats over taxes to hurt the people. That's what they are. That's what the Democrats stand for. President Trump's first swipe at Democrats during his first official State of the Union of his second term was a dig related at taxes and the opposition to the signature of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Together, we're building a nation where every child has a chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern, Trump told Congress on Tuesday night. That is the debt we owe the heroes who came before us, and that is a promise we must keep to America of our 250th year. I urge Congress to begin the mission of passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans. And then he took his first direct shot at the Democrats. All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important, very necessary tax cuts. They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead, but we held strong. And with the great big beautiful bill, we gave you tax on no tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Trump went on to point out that interest on auto loans are tax deductible for the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Democrats were scheduled to hold 5 counter events. Who cares? And then Adam Schiff and Ruben Gallego both skipped it. Al Green got kicked out. Omar and Tlaib, they left early. Trump's speech was littered with standing ovations from Republicans in the audience, including several optimistic moments near the start. This is a golden age of America. That's what he said at the very beginning. You already heard what he said at the very end. Very optimistic, and it needs to continue. And the what's her name, Abigail Spanberger, I call her the Secretary General of the Democratic People's Republic of Virginia, said the complete opposite. She continuously claimed that President Trump was a liar. She needs to be looking in the mirror because she campaigned on one thing and did the exact opposite for the people, against the people of Virginia. And she really, really, truly needs to understand the ramifications she's doing to her state, because people will leave. They will go to West Virginia, they will go to North Carolina, and they will go to Tennessee. And matter of fact, she's trying to do her little whoop-de-doo dancing chicken ballot in Virginia to redistrict almost every single Republican out. What's going to happen is that people are going to leave and they're going to lose electoral votes, which means they'll lose representation in Congress in the 2030 census. So if this goes through and when they get the reapportionment, they may lose more congressional seats. So it may be a double whammy for them of losing out. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So we got that done. We talked about that. Trump rips Supreme Court tariff, vows new legal fight after 6-3 blow. We've already discussed that. President Trump, when the decision came out from the Supreme Court last Friday about tariffs, Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh, actually put 3 other legal codes in there that he could actually choose from, in which they had already been planning on in the executive branch in the White House, where they could proceed. So, yes, he can't use the IEPA the way he wanted, but I believe they're using Section 122, which means he has the right to establish global tariffs, one size fits all. Okay? But he didn't harbor on it, or he didn't harp on it last night, which he could have, which I'm glad he didn't, because it still is the Supreme Court. There were only 4 justices there last night. There was Roberts, Keegan, and then there was Kavanaugh and Barrett, Amy Barrett Coney. But Amy, I can't remember which one it was. Coney Barrett. Okay. But so 3 out of the 4 there ruled against the president last week. But he didn't harbor on it, which is good. Okay. So next, did I say enough about what's her name, Abigail Spanberger? Look at this evil person. Look at that evil person. You know what she reminds me of? Cruella DeVille. Cruella DeVille. Yep. But I call her the Secretary General of the Democratic People's Republic of Virginia, because that's exactly what she is. All right. There's choice words I could say about her, but I will not repeat those words. Thank goodness. You ought to be thankful that I won't do something like that. If you have comments about Spanberger, put them in the live chat. Remember, the live chat goes away in about 20 minutes when we sign off. All right? So you're safe here. But you know what? I don't even want to say anything in this article because it's trying to make her look good. I can't believe the New York Post would actually... Oh, no, this came from Fox News. Wow. Who wrote this one? Peter Pinetto. I have no idea who he is. Okay, we'll skip him. We'll go on to bigger and better things. We'll talk about this one. Yes. Would you believe Al Green actually thought he compares himself to Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks after he got thrown out of the State of the Union last night? Al Green. He's thinking he's going to win the primary next Tuesday, which I doubt. All right, and if there's any evidence of his competency uh, in the 18th congressional district in Houston, he really needs to think again, and those voters down there really need to think again before they cast a ballot for him. They really need to go over to the Republican side and nominate the Republican. All right. All right. So it's not all about this isn't all about the State of the Union. So Pete Hegseth is appealing the ruling blocking punishment of Senator Mark Kelly for doing the illegal orders video. War Secretary Pete Hegseth moved to reignite his high-profile clash with Senator Mark Kelly on Tuesday, appealing a federal judge court ruling that blocked the Pentagon from punishing the Democrat lawmaker over a video urging U.S. service members to defy illegal orders. The Department of Justice filed the appeal in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia on behalf of Hegseth, the Department of War, the U.S. Navy, and the Secretary of Navy, John Phelan. The filing follows a ruling earlier this month by U.S. District Judge Richard Leon, who determined the Pentagon likely violated Kelly's First Amendment rights and those of millions of military retirees when it formally censured him on January 5th. Hey, Rob, if you're online, tell me who nominated U.S. District Judge Richard Leon for the federal bench. All right. And I believe it's either Obama or Biden. Leon blocked the Pentagon from demoting Kelly's retired rank of captain or reducing his military retirement pay, prompting Hegseth to swiftly file an appeal. Kelly reacted to the latest move while reposting coverage of the appeal on X. These guys don't know when to quit, he wrote. A federal judge told Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth that they violated my constitutional rights and chilled the free speech of millions of retired veterans. There was only one reason to appeal the ruling: to keep trampling on the free speech rights of retired veterans and silence dissent. Kelly continued, I went to war to defend Americans' constitutional rights, and I won't back down from this fight, no matter how far they want to take it. You know, bombing raids from 30,000 feet 38 times is not the same as like guys like me, where we had to face the enemy face to face. So I don't want to hear it, Senator Kelly. And then it went on. Hegseth previously fired back on X following the district ruling, writing, "Sedition is sedition, Captain." In November, a group of Democrat lawmakers with military and intelligence backgrounds found themselves in hot water after posting a 90-second video urging service members to refuse illegal orders. The video, which was first posted by Elisa Slotkin, another CIA, and you know, she worked for the CIA, and so did Abigail Spanberger. So birds of a feather flock together, right? Don't trust anyone that comes out of the CIA. Included military veterans Jason Crow of Colorado, Chris DeLuzio of Pennsylvania, Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire, and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania. Hegseth previously said an investigation was launched into Kelly's actions because he was the only lawmaker formally retired from the military and under the Pentagon's jurisdiction. A grand jury in Washington, D.C. rejected a Department of Justice effort to indict the group, further escalating tensions between the administration and critics. In his ruling, Leon wrote that Kelly is unlikely to succeed on the merits of his free speech claim and found he demonstrated irreparable harm. President Trump previously accused the group of lawmakers of sedition at the highest level. No word back yet from anyone. All right. So I don't know who appointed this judge, but Senator Kelly should understand what the roles and responsibilities of being a retiree from the military are. Just if being a retiree, you take look at chapter 13 in I forgot. Oh, what is that? Okay, so everyone receives a chapter when they retire from the army. You got chapter 8 for crazy people. You got chapter 9 for pregnant people. You got chapter 10. Chapter 10 for separation in lieu of court martial. Chapter 11. You got chapter 12. Chapter 13 is for retirees. You have all kinds of different chapters for releasing from the military, right? Inside those chapters are the conditions of retirement. So I suggest he needs to go back and read that, because just because you're retired on active duty doesn't mean you actually just relinquish all responsibilities to the military. That is why they allow us to continue to carry an ID card. All right. I might do a little bit more on that one. What have we got here? It's 12:56. I'm going to save this one for tomorrow. I just told y'all about Al Green and his. I'm like MLK and Rosa Parks. Al Green, you're not. You're just a slob that needs to wait till January 3rd and retire from Congress. All right. Matter of fact, why don't you do us all a favor and just retire from Congress right now, because you're incompetent. All right. All right. Next, because I'm closing in on an hour, I am saving this one for tomorrow. You know what? I'm going to save both of these for tomorrow. All right. So, a couple of things before I sign off is yesterday during the State of the Union, yesterday afternoon, Jasmine Crockett, she's running for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate here in Texas. She was in Central Texas. And she really should have been in D.C., which probably nothing would have happened, because there are several members of Congress that wasn't in the Washington, D.C. area. The ones that were in the D.C. area should have been in Congress listening to the president, but she wasn't there. Ken Paxton was there. He's running for the Senate. John Cornyn was there. He's running for the Senate. Wesley Hunt was in Georgetown, which I voted for him, but I really wish he would have been in D.C. because he's a congressman. But the thing about Jasmine Crockett was that the person who wrote this article, who is Kevin Limity, I've met him before, but he said that Killeen came out in force to listen to Jasmine Crockett. There was 100 people at a rally for a U.S. Senate. 100 people for Jasmine Crockett, right? Jasmine, I got 10,000 different hair wigs to try on and several different accents, because she is from St. Louis, Missouri. She is a carpetbagger. She never really held a real job in her life, probably. But the problem is I have with what this was, said they came out in force, what the Killeen did, but there was only 100 people there. They named, if she wins the nomination, she will be facing only either Ken Paxton or John Cornyn. The writer did not mention Wesley Hunt's name at all, right? Which is wrong. Yeah, I don't think he mention James Tellerico either. Yeah, he did. I'm looking right here, right? Uh, he's a work of art too. But the other thing was also was that her rally that she had, right? I'm going to go ahead and put that over here. The rally that Jasmine Crockett had was at Lions Club Park, which is where the Senior Citizen Center is in Killeen off of Stan Schluter Boulevard, right? And if you know anything about the Lions Club Center, it is an early vote center for the city of Killeen. So I hope she was outside the 100-foot level line. I forgot what they called the line of death or something like that, but you can't cross it. But she was having a political rally, which it's not illegal. I would say it's unethical, but she was having that in the parking lot or the park right over by where all the early voting is taking place at that time, right? Take it as it may, but she should have been in D.C., just like Wesley Hunt should have been in D.C. also. But you call a spade a spade is a spade. In their place of duty, they're making $176,000 a year. They need to be in D.C. doing their job, right? Whether they're running for office or not. All right. So the other two things. So please don't vote for Crockett. Vote Republican. I saw a University of Texas poll just a little while ago that showed her with a 12-point lead over Tellerico, but they only surveyed 367 voters. 367 voters, likely voters, on the survey, right? And then it showed, I believe, Paxton and Cornyn and then Hunt in the Republican nomination in that order. I'm not going to read any of the Texas scorecard today because we're over an hour. Transition over. These are our election dates going on right now. At the second one, you see early voting for the primary is ongoing through the 27th, and the primary day is March 3rd, and the runoff election, if there is a runoff, is May 26th. All right. Get out there and vote. It was published yesterday that Republicans, for the first time this early election cycle, outvoted Democrats statewide, which would probably mean that Democrats are running out of gas. Okay, they're running out of voters, and normally we don't have a vast majority of Republicans that like to vote in early voting. They like to vote on election day. Me, myself, I prefer early voting. I hardly ever vote on election day unless stuff happens, and I make sure I vote, but I usually vote in early vote. And my wife and I was like, hey, let's go vote on Sunday this year to see how it is. It was pretty cool. All right. So that is all that's going on. I haven't seen any more breaking news or anything. Anyone has anything they want me to talk about? Let me see. Is there anything on the Texas scorecard I want to? Let's see. Paxton sues abortion pill group is shipping illegal drugs into Texas. Facebook PAC pumps over $1.2 million into Republican primaries. Wow. The Galaxy 26 Ultra. Wow. Okay. Let me get back to this. State Board of Education is developing new social studies curriculum, and the revolver from Samuel Colt was patented the day February 25th, 1836, the day after the William Barrett Travis letter. But a patent was issued to Samuel Colt for the first practical revolving cylinder firearm. All right. And then in the Civil War, General Burnside developed the repeating rifle. All right. Arthur Conan Doyle has a quote as, "Keep your revolver near you night and day. Never relax your precautions." Pretty cool. The only thing I want else was to bring up real quick, and I'm going to argue over it tomorrow morning, is a year after Williamson County, did Williamson County waste $1 million on voting equipment? And the rundown on is a year after Wilco, that's the nickname for Williamson County, officials unanimously voted to move away from barcode-based voting. Daniel Greer reports a fresh dispute over electronic voting and potential voter disenfranchisement has erupted. Last June, county officials purchased a ballot-on-demand system to comply with President Trump's executive order directing election officials to eliminate barcodes from voting ballots in most circumstances. The November 2020 election was conducted under that model with ballot-on-demand paper as default, and machines offered primary for voters with disabilities. But during early voting for the 2026 Republican primary, which is ongoing now, dozens of ES and S express vote ballot marking devices have been deployed in every voting site in Williamson County. Reportedly, poll workers have been instructed to offer and encourage electronic voting with barcodes. Multiple Williamson County voters have reportedly been coached to vote electronically instead of being given paper ballots to mark by hand. And Wilco GOP Chair Michelle Evans argues the machines are producing barcode ballots in defiance with both the spirit of the Trump order and the commissioner's court directive to provide hand-marked ballots. She said the routine use of express vote devices far exceeds the narrow accessibility role described when the commissioner's court approved the switch to ballot on demand. So I'm going to open up this so it'll be available for us tomorrow morning. All right. So that is the JP8 report for today. These are my socials. You can find me on X at James Pierce Jr. You can find me on Facebook at James A. Pierce Jr. You can find me on ScrewTube at the JP8 Report 67, True Social at James A. Pierce, and you can find me at the JP8 Report at gmail.com. All right, so that's everything for today. Thank you all for tuning in. My next broadcast is tomorrow morning at 6:30 Central. That's the morning brief. Please click follow to follow the channel, the podcast, right? And it's the same channel for the morning brief and the JP8 report. And give us a like. And if you are willing and you want to help James out, click on the tip button and leave me a tip on the Rumble wallet. All right. All right. So this is James Pierce with the JP8 report. I'll catch you on the flip side. I'm out.